All right, my watch list for tomorrow. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, so I'm probably just going to trade the first hour, see if I can find a nice gapper. Here's an example of a nice gapper, this NDRM. This gapped up this morning. It was the #1 stock I was watching in the chat room, and I just simply called this long. I let it trade. These are 2-minute candles, so I let it trade for about 8 minutes, and then just called it long over this area. In other words, above all of the first 8 minutes trading except for that opening spike. So I believe I called it at 863, if I'm not mistaken. All right, I just looked it up. 867, I apologize. I called it long if it gets to 867 when it looked like this. Worst case stop, 30 cents below. And look what happened. So here's the trigger. And I'm just going to scroll. And I'll just keep scrolling. And this thing went to 19, over 19. From 867, it actually went to 1907. That is a $10.40 per share move on a stock that I called at 867. So it went up over $10 a share from that 120% move from the call on 30 cents risk that didn't get stopped out. Now the reason I point this out is if you do join our service, I usually do this 2 or 3 times a week. I'll usually get a 120% gainer in a few hours, a few times a week. Matter of fact, most stocks I call make a move like this right after I call them. So there's a reason to join our service right there. Okay, I'm just kidding. You don't see this too often. It was insane, and it was literally the only trade I took today. All right. Having said that, this is my point: is you can make some money on holiday low volume weeks, but especially tomorrow being New Year's Eve, the first hour is all that matters to me. All right. So here's my list. Start off with kind of what some would call a junk stock, LIVE. Okay, most people would probably call it a junk stock, but it gapped up on big volume on earnings yesterday and ripped higher, but then gave most of it back. Then today gaps down and sells off. So you could argue, you don't have to argue, it went from 250-ish to about, I don't know what the high there was, 429, in 2 sessions. So that's a huge move. And it gave some back today. So I do want to watch this as a bounce play. If this can trade in a narrow range and then break its early high, we might have a trade there. Believe me, I don't love this one. Here's another real thin one that I found just scanning. I lowered my volume parameters to see if I could find some lower volume ones, lower priced ones just for just for the holiday week. And this one, ATOS, made a huge move, and now 2 red days on lower volume. I want to watch this one for potential bounce too. Don't know anything about it though. Momo, a recent IPO, really beaten up here, and it might have put in a higher low right here. So I want to watch this one for continued upside. And if you go to 5-minute candles, it did some strange action in the afternoon. It's a weird stock because when it popped like this, I posted in the chat room, hey, Momo's getting volume, and then after I posted it, it literally didn't change price for like a minute or so. And I thought, I asked people if it was halted, and they said it wasn't. So it did this spike and then did nothing. And I didn't do anything with it because I didn't want to trade this afternoon. But then it did almost nothing and then got a late day pop. But this kind of action makes me think, hey, maybe we should watch this one for a continued bounce. There it is on 30-minute candles. So I do like it, especially over today's high. So over 11.95, I think that one might get some, pardon the pun, might get some Momo to the upside. So I want to have that one on watch. ARWR, very nice breakout today of kind of a cup and handle down here. Over 11 million shares traded hands. It did give back a lot of the early pop, but I don't think it's going to give it all back. I want to watch it for some continuation tomorrow. XONE goes back on watch, no trade in it today, but these 3D printer stocks had a very nice pop a couple sessions ago, and now a couple really boring sessions on the 3rd day now, being tomorrow. They might trade in a narrow range and then start to push higher again. So that one's got a ton of shorts in it, so I want to watch it. And then, hate to do it, but I got to put DGLY back on watch today. Didn't do anything with this one today, and it's still just straight side with it. The last 2 weeks almost looks like a fish spine, doesn't it? So there's really no pattern here, except that if it breaks to the upside, you could get a really big move. If it rolls over, who cares? Then I'll just leave it alone. But this one makes great moves at times. So until, I said this every day for the past week probably, until DGLY resolves itself to the upside or downside, yeah, I'm going to have it on watch every day. So that's my list. Most importantly are going to be gappers, like an NDRM, gapping up at the open. It was a recent IPO, so there wasn't a lot in the way for this thing to rip. So I'll be looking for pre-market volume to hopefully play another gapper like we did NDRM, although I don't expect that kind of move in anything for a long time. Unbelievable, but I definitely am going to focus on gappers. That first hour is where there's going to be volume, and then I think it's just going to be dead the rest of the day. I think Friday's going to be dead, and I know Thursday's going to be dead because the market's going to be closed. But it is worth logging in tomorrow, in my opinion, to hope to catch one quick trade out of the gates, and then celebrate the new year. All right, Happy New Year! If I don't see anybody between now and then, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.